Being in Time Video 8. So I just sketched out what I am calling a minimalist and a maximalist reading of the thesis of Being in Time. And as I mentioned, this is actually a strategy I'm going to pursue a lot. Sometimes I'll call it strong and weak readings. And in philosophy, that doesn't mean like better or worse. Weak means that you're defending less territory, let's say, and strong means that you're trying to make a claim that requires more to show that it's right. But if it's correct, that you can sort of use it for more things. And generally speaking, sort of to put some of my own cards on the table, the view that I would hold is generally closer to what like a weaker reading in Heidegger, or more minimalist reading. So if I was going to defend a view, it would be closer to what I'm calling the minimalist reading here. The value of talking about philosophy in terms of poetry is focusing less on what the thesis is trying to say or show, which, as I've mentioned in Being in Time, is not, I think, the predominant goal, but rather in terms of how the text functions, what it's up to, what it makes happen. And in that sense, it's not going to be either the minimalist or the maximalist reading, but the way that Heidegger himself is constantly ambiguously going between them that really matters. Like, we're going to see, I think, that Heidegger will retreat back to his more minimalist thesis, but then he'll make some movements that are trying to show a lot more. And it's in that back and forth that we really, I think, start to see what makes Being in Time function. And that's going to, even if, in the 1000th video, when we move past Being in Time into late Heidegger, we'll see, how that affects his philosophy going forward. Anyway, in terms of the minimalist and maximalist reading of the thesis here, though, remember I had mentioned that I'd sort of talked about the minimalist thesis in terms of the question of being, and the maximalist thesis in terms of two things, the history of being and the mythology of being. And that's a way oversimplification. But one thing that's sort of vital for now, I think, is a very common criticism made of Heidegger, is that when he's talking about what he's calling the history of being, it's really something more like a mythology of being. And generally speaking, I think a lot of philosophers, when they are criticizing Heidegger, they'll criticize Heidegger for this. He's got this very detailed, intricate, brilliant, maybe entirely wrong way of constructing a history of ontology. But he tells it through a story that ends up with a sort of a strongly mythical component. I'm actually, to sort of, even though I said that I'm going to defend the minimalist thesis here, a lot of my own work, I'm really interested in the way that this history and this mythology rub against one another. But where I think I differ from a lot of my colleagues is I think he does not take the mythology seriously enough. So in the next video, I'll talk about the mythology of being, and then I promise, we'll get into the intro.